Hello again to 5 a Day with Jay. I am J.R. Murdoch. Yesterday I said I would tell a story about how they thought I was cheating in the Navy on some tests I was taking. The class I was in was my EW. I was an EW, Electronics Warfare Technician. And the school I was in was EW C school. There's an A school and a C school. I have no idea where the B school went, but the A school is about, I believe it was 3 months long. And then they send you out, and then you come back and you go to C school, which was a little over a year. And in my class, as I mentioned, I was really fast at taking tests. Now, remember when I was in high school, I had a tough time with tests, but I never really needed to study once I got to a certain point. I either knew the subject or I didn't. And I would usually do my homework in class, in my classes, turn it in immediately the next day. My dad was always frustrated because he never saw me bring home a book. I was always on the B honor roll. A couple times I made the A honor roll. I did well just because it required almost no effort from me. And what I discovered in the Navy is the tests were even far more simple. All of the tests were open book, but it wasn't a book. These were manuals. These were manuals on how to repair the equipment we were working on. When I say manuals, I mean there were 6 of them, each of them about yay thick, each of them huge, huge manuals. And in the front, there was a table of contents. Well, in the first couple of weeks, I had memorized all the table of contents. Don't know how. I had memorized them, so I knew on which page each section started. So the reason I was able to take my quizzes and tests so quickly, as I said, everything was open book. I would be able to read the question, determine which manual I needed immediately. I'd get the manual from the stack, boom, put it down in front of me. I would know about which section it was in. I would grab and flip open, flip. I'd get to the section, find the answer, fill it in. On a 10-question test, as I said, normally it would take me 5 to 10 minutes to finish a 10-question quiz doing that method. I don't know if I could do it today, but when I was in the Navy, I had those things memorized when I was going to school in the Navy. Because I did this so quickly, I would turn in my quiz or test, I'd go down to the break room, and I would come back, say half an hour later, because I wouldn't see anybody else from my class, and just ask the instructor, can I go? And many times he would let me because he knew even on a 10-question quiz, it would take 3 to 4 hours for some of these people to finish. And they were supposed to have a half-hour time frame, maximum of an hour. Sometimes be 4 hours. And I knew on a test, some of the tests, 50 questions, I'd be done in 45 minutes. And I would just tell the instructor I'm not coming back and leave. They assumed I was cheating, so they installed a camera system in the classroom to watch me. And I sat on the right side of the classroom. The teacher was on the left side of the classroom. I would take my quiz or test and I would hand it to him when I was done. I didn't even need to watch him grade it. I aced nearly everything they gave me. And I would go back to my desk, clean my stuff up, stack my manuals, and go on break. They would grade it, and like I said, I would almost always ace it every single time. And the instructor was freaked out by this, especially when it came to troubleshooting. I remember one time we were troubleshooting, he had wired up something special just for me. And he even told me, if you get this, I got no problem giving you an A. I immediately began troubleshooting the problem, and the problem began to move around. Boggled my mind. It really messed with me until I started to see the smoke, and I pulled the card out, and I set the card down, and I told the instructor, there's your problem right there. And he started laughing. And I said, I don't know what your initial problem that you were setting up for me was going to be, but I could look at the back of the card and I knew the pins. And I said, you shorted the 12-volt directly to ground on this card. This entire card is now shot. Normally what they would do is they would short 2 pins together, and those 2 pins would cause an intermittent error or some kind of static on the screen. And he had shorted 12-volt to ground, which shorted out the entire card, which took time, which is why my problem continued to move around as I was attempting to troubleshoot it. And the card burned up, and once I saw the smoke, the instructor just laughed, and he said, you know what, I can't fault you on this one. This was my bad. And he gave me a 100% on that one because obviously it was easy to find. At any rate, back to taking the actual written tests in the classroom. When I finished my C school, I finished with a 98.9%. Only one other person had a higher grade than I did. He had a 99.5%. This guy was not that bright. He was an okay troubleshooter, but taking tests, he was one of those guys that was almost always the last one to finish his test. But come to find out, when we were in our graduation ceremony, I got my final completion certificate. He got a letter to attend Captain's Mass. Captain's Mass is when you do something pretty wrong. His letter was because the camera they had installed in the classroom, I found this out from the instructor later, the camera they installed to determine if I was cheating or not was shot in such a way that it went from my desk to the instructor's desk, where the individual had his desk bumped up right against the instructor's desk. So when I would turn my quiz or test in, the instructor would take a template, overlay it on top of the quiz. It makes it easy to check. You see the dots, you got it. If it's not, you put a red mark in it, and the individual got those ones wrong. Well, the person that was sitting directly next to the teacher would look and mark all the answers on his quiz or test as the teacher was grading mine. He was cheating. He was cheating off of my test after I turned it in, and they caught him on camera. He would have had one of the highest scores graduating out of that school, but as it was, I had the highest score ever graduating from that C school at the time. This was 1990 when this happened. I'm sure other people have come through and done just as well. But for me, I didn't have a problem taking tests, and I never really have. I don't know why. I remember taking an engineering test for the company I currently work for. I didn't end up going on and becoming an engineer. I wound up doing other things. But I took the engineering test just to take a test. When I sat down, I discovered, after doing the first set of questions, the second set of questions relied and built upon the answers of the first set of questions. So I immediately took my piece of scratch paper that they gave us, flipped it over, redid the entire first set of questions, but I did everything in a grid. I had done everything just longhand on every problem, so I created a grid and filled everything in. Got to the second set of questions, referred to the grid, and boom, 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 everything just popped right in. I'm like, well, this is freaking amazing. I don't need to do every single question. I just need to do one set and move on. Third set of questions, my grid was right there. Boom, boom, boom. Fourth set of questions, boom, boom, boom. Filled everything in. We're half an hour in to taking a 2-hour test. I'm almost done. I get to the fifth set. It's a completely different set of questions. I did the same thing, created another grid. I'm filling in all of them. And of course, I'm double checking my answers as I go. I didn't just rely 100% on the grid. I go through the grid, boom, 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 boom. I'm filling in section 5, section 6, section 7. I'm almost done with section 8. I'm literally 2 questions away from being done with this 2-hour test within the first hour. Mandatory break. Teachers, pencils down, everybody needs to go on break. Flip over your tests. And I raise my hand. Hey, can I finish? I'm almost done. No, you have to take a break. Fine. I go and take a break, and I'm like, oh, I'm right there. I walk back into the classroom. I fill in the last 2 questions within 30 seconds of sitting down, and I hand the teacher my test. And he looked at me shocked. And he said, are you sure you don't want to double check? And I told him, I've already double checked. I double checked as I was going. So I know all of those answers are correct. And he looked at me and said, all of them are correct? If they're not, I'd be surprised. And he said, well, I need you to step outside so I can grade your exam. I step outside, and I'm like, wow, I know I aced it. And I know I aced that test. It had been a while since I've taken a test like that, and I was jazzed. I was excited. Instructor comes outside, closes the door, and looks at me. Do you know anybody that's taken this test before? No. Did you get any material before you took this test? No. I can't prove that you cheated, but I will say this. I have never seen anybody get a higher score in that quick of a time without cheating. I need to ask you again. Did you have any help taking this test? No, you saw me sit down. You can see my scratch paper and see exactly how I filled it in. And that's exactly what he did. He looked at my scratch paper, and I explained to him, these blocks all fell into this one grid after answering the first set of questions. All 4 of these sections filled right in. Section 5 did the other 4. Done. 8 sections. I'm in, I'm out. And he just looked at me, he congratulated me for passing the test. I asked him, did I ace it? And he said, I cannot tell you that. All I can tell you is I've never seen anybody get a higher score in as quick of a time. And I just shook my head. I knew I aced it. I knew I did. I don't know why I never went into the engineering field at the company I'm at. I went into programming, and I'll talk about that another time. I've been rambling on for much more than 5 minutes today, but this has been 5 Day with Jay. Again, this background's going to change real soon, so enjoy it while it's there. I'm enjoying it. I can't wait to see what my favorite daughter and her boy come up with. It's going to be awesome. I know. I just know it's going to be great. I can't wait to find out. All right.